before I get the scooter mounted to the bottom of the chair, there's the issue of controlling it. Right now, it has this grip throttle thing, which you just twist, and that's what turns the motor on and off. Only problem is we're not gonna have handlebars on the wheelchair, so I need to take this thing off of here and figure out how to convert it into something a little more usable. The nice thing is, this being a super low-end, cheap, crappy scooter, this is not a variable switch. It is either on or off. There's two settings, on and off. And that actually makes it a lot easier because I can take this apart and just wire it into like a little thumb switch or something. Let me take this thing apart here and see what we got. Oh, I see, there's a couple of wires here. I've got the wires that go to the controller. Oh, there's another one for the brakes. And it looks like this switch in the brakes will shut off the motor if you pull the brakes. That makes it simpler than I thought. I saw two connectors and didn't realize that one went to the brake lever, and that'll make this process a whole lot simpler. 4-pin hard shell connector. Only two colors of wires though, 2 orange and 2 brown. Let's pop this thing open and see what we got inside here. Interesting. There's 2 switches in here. I wonder if this is variable speed, because we have a switch that's actuated when you're not holding on to it. Then if you turn it a little bit, neither switch is activated, and if you turn it further, it activates this other switch. So we might have a 2-speed controller. Let me see if I can verify that. Half a Razor scooter here. Let me plug this remote in. Alright, there we go. It's plugged in. Okay, power on. We're getting the relay to click, so that's good. So I can do this without ruining myself. So, looking at this thing and listening as I'm turning it, the click happens when the first switch activates, which is the 2 orange wires. When I keep turning and the second switch activates, I'm not hearing any sound. I'm not sure if it's actually doing anything, so let me go ahead and see if I can fire this thing up. I have to spin this wheel while I'm holding this. Okay, it's not turning on. Let me check and see. The brake switch might be normally closed instead of normally open. Got to use the voltmeter here to test that out. In here. Yeah. And then if I pull the brake lever, it stops. That's all right, easy fix. All I have to do here is, I'll turn it off, but short out these 2 wires, and then that'll simulate that brake switch being on. Add some electrical tape. Let's see if we can get this thing to fire up again. Controller out of the way, make sure my leg is clear. Power on. Engage the first switch, and spin the wheel. All right, got it worked out. So the way this thing works, and turn it off, the way this thing works is the first switch, which you can hear clicking, that engages the power controller. The second switch is what enables the drive function. So this switch has to be open and this one has to be closed. So in theory, light just died. In theory, I could defeat one of these switches by bypassing it and then just use the main power switch here as the control. I can pop these things out of here and make a little hand control, no big deal. I have in fact hatched a scheme to mount this to the bottom of the manual chair, but I'm gonna have to go down and cut the rest of this off with a Sawzall because this needs to be completely gone. All right, we have the front now cut off completely flat, and we have this little lovely consolation prize. After much screwing around, I got the Razor scooter attached to the chair. Now, there's a company that makes a version of this called the Smart Drive, and it costs like $4,000. I think I'm gonna call this the Idiot Drive, or maybe the Not So Smart Drive. There's a couple safety things we're still lacking here.
So essentially it's attached to the back of the chair here, and it can move up and down freely. The way I attached it was with these fence brackets. These are what you normally use to latch a gate in your garden. You basically slide that down, pull it over, and then it comes out of the latch. And I've got one on each side here. And those serve as double function because not only do they hold the thing in place, but they also allow it to pivot, which is necessary for this whole apparatus to work. Right now though, this little tiny skinny wheel on the back is not ideal, and turning is kind of a problem because you've got a third wheel on the ground, and if you try to turn, it's just dragging that sideways. If you're moving and you turn, it's not as bad, but that's why I was happy that there was so much space here, is because I'm gonna have to make a custom double roller wheel to work in that spot. But for now, I think it should be fine. There's only one step left before I can test this thing out, and that's taking apart that controller and making some sort of hand switch so I can control the thing. But the trick is I can't just hold the button in my hand because I need my hands free to push the chair and also steer. So I'm gonna need something that I can maybe hit with my thumb, but is not gonna get in the way of me pushing. Drilled a couple holes in it, poked the switches through, and now I've filled the entire thing with hot glue, and I'm sticking it in the freezer so it will cure. All right, I think our controller should be done. Let's pull it out of the freezer. I figured what fits in your hand really well and would make a great remote? An old inhaler. Ran the wiring in through the bottom, punched some holes in the top, got the two buttons there. And basically you just hold the thing in your hand and you push both the buttons and that activates it. Although I'm just now realizing that the glue has not quite set up yet, so this needs to go back in the freezer for a little while longer. While I was cutting the plastic off of that inhaler to get the switches in there, some of it went flying, and I'm not sure if you can see, but up here in this light fixture, a piece of the plastic ended up in there. If you look real closely, you can see right here on the bottom, there's a little blue piece of plastic right there. It went flying up there. It went flying up there and landed perfectly in the light fixture. Can't get it to kick on. All right, I figured out the problem. Turns out you don't hold down both these buttons. You just hold down this blue one. The other one is the stop switch. Yeah, so my bad. So it works. Can definitely tell it's quite a load for the motor, but you have to push pretty fast to get the thing to kick in. But it definitely works. It's not quiet at all. Thing makes a lot of noise. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Might have to go out into the garage. I'm gonna put my coat on and go out into the garage and see how the thing will work. Turning in this thing actually hasn't been as difficult as I thought. It's seems to slip fairly well. Oh my gosh. Freaking rain. question is, how hot is the motor? I can still touch it.
I think you're definitely speeding in the hallway.
Yeah, it's raining like crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad when I walked over there.
That was the one thing I didn't figure. Well, I knew that might happen. At least for beta testing purposes, I figured there was a very high likelihood that this thing would fall off because those little latches that I use, well, this thing vibrates a lot and there's nothing but gravity locking those pins in place. So I was going to put some rubber bands or something on there to hold them up. That way this didn't happen. It was right as I was turning and the thing starts vibrating and the pin just come loose. Here, let me get out of this chair and I'll show you. Also, it pulls to the left pretty hard, but that'll be an easy fix. Just have to adjust the angle of the thingy. The other potential weak point that I'm very aware of is I use Tech screws holding these brackets on. That's right, Phillips screws. And while Phillips screws are better than bungee cords, the policy is bungee cords don't hold anything. And there's a lot of torque being put on these. I mean, it's pretty solid, but I really should put bolts and drive them all the way through the frame here. Alright, here's what we're referring to. These are the latches that hold that thing in. And yeah, when it's in there, we're just, it's just gravity. Version 2 is ready. I had to kind of readjust everything here because it was pulling pretty hard to the left. So what I did was added these safety locks. Look at these specialized elastic safety locks. There's no way these things are going to come unhooked now. I mean, rubber, that's like the ultimate in safety. That one's already starting to crack. Yeah. Maybe zip ties would be a better idea. Yeah, that rubber band's not doing so hot. Okay. Not surprising in any way. In water, there's zero traction. I'm going to put some more air in my tires. It's been several weeks since I did that. I think it'll make a big difference. Alright, we're ready for run number 3. I pumped my tires up to 62 psi where they're supposed to be, straightened out the thing so it's pushing me straight, replaced the rubber bands with zip ties, and tightened down all the hardware. So, should be good. We're working out the bugs. Actually going straight. It's actually going straight now. I can run with no hands and steer like this. Stop and running. No, it won't go up the hills, but it will go down. Yeah, you do. Well, this thing definitely works, and it works very well. It's really loud, though. I don't think I'm going to do any more testing in the hallways because I can guarantee you people can hear it inside their apartments, and they're like, what the heck is that sound? But yeah, it's definitely getting the job done. It can't quite get me up the hill in the garage, but that's pretty steep. It's asking a lot out of a little kid's toy. I mean, it's made for like 90-pound 6-year-olds or however much they weigh. Actually, let me look in the manual and see how much it's rated for. I threw away the manual. I mean, I figured not being used properly at all. But I looked it up online. It says 120 pounds is the weight limit. So I weigh right now about 245, and the wheelchair, we'll say another 20, 25 pounds with that thing on there. Yeah, so we're pushing over 260 pounds on this thing. Not all the weight is sitting on the scooter, and the wheel sometimes will spin a little bit. So if it gets overloaded, the wheel just kind of like free spins. So it might be a little bit better for it. But it claims with a 120 pound rider, it can go for 40 to 50 minutes of continuous riding, or about 10 miles. So yeah, we're definitely overloading it. There's no battery gauge whatsoever. But hopefully it's not raining tomorrow and I can take the thing outside and kind of screw around with it. Only problem is it's so loud that it kind of attracts attention.